Here's today's geopolitical brief. The Middle East remains the more volatile theater, while Ukraine is stuck in a grinding mix of battlefield escalation and stalled diplomacy. In both cases, ceasefire talk is being used more as signaling than as a real path to de-escalation. The Middle East remains the most combustible theater, with Reuters reporting that the US and Iran held very good talks over the last 24 hours, while tensions in the region remain high. Trump's administration is pairing diplomatic signaling with hard power, including US military support for shipping security and a broader pressure campaign aimed at forcing Iran back toward negotiations. The sharpest live risk is the Iran-Israel confrontation, which Reuters says is still actively destabilizing the region and widening spillover risks for Lebanon and nearby states. Israeli operations in southern Lebanon are still prompting evacuation warnings, while Reuters also reported renewed fighting with Hezbollah and broader regional tensions tied to the war with Iran. Syria remains a secondary but important track. Reuters reported US-mediated Syria-Israel security talks resumed earlier this year. But the core issue is still Israeli withdrawal from territory seized after Assad's fall. The region is being shaped by a three-layer crisis: direct Iran-Israel conflict, Hezbollah-Lebanon escalation, and unresolved Syria-Israel security questions. The alternative perspective: this is less a regional security crisis than a managed escalation that serves entrenched power blocks, keeps populations divided, and distracts from the monetary and political systems that benefit from perpetual instability. Ukraine remains locked in a war of attrition, with Reuters reporting continued drone strikes and stalled peace efforts. Ukraine's front line is still under pressure, but Kyiv has paired that with drone strikes and a push to shape the diplomatic narrative. Reuters reported that Ukraine accused Russia of violating a Kyiv-proposed ceasefire, with heavy battlefield assaults, airstrikes, and drone attacks continuing across multiple regions. Trump has also been involved directly, saying he discussed a possible ceasefire with Putin, which shows Washington is still trying to influence the shape of any settlement. Zelensky continues to push for support from Europe and other partners, while European leaders have publicly pledged not to abandon Ukraine even as the war enters another prolonged phase. Putin, meanwhile, appears to be using battlefield leverage to strengthen Russia's bargaining position before any serious negotiation. The main political takeaway is that peace talks remain stalled, while Moscow presses for territorial gains in the east, especially around Donetsk, and Kyiv continues to seek leverage through long-range attacks and security guarantee diplomacy. The war is still in a grinding phase. Neither side is showing much willingness to stop, and both are trying to improve their position before any serious negotiation. The alternative perspective: the war is not just a territorial conflict, but a symptom of a deeper system failure, where financial interests, elite incentives, and geopolitical leverage keep the fighting going long after ordinary people have already paid the price. Other flashpoints beyond the two main wars, the most important geopolitical risks, include China-Taiwan tensions, the South China Sea, Sudan, and parts of the Sahel, where conflict and instability continue to affect migration, trade, and regional security. These situations may not dominate headlines daily, but they remain significant because they sit at the intersection of great power competition, commodity flows, and fragile states. Another important pattern is that world leaders are increasingly dealing with multiple crises at once, rather than in isolation. Trump is balancing Middle East escalation and Ukraine diplomacy. Zelensky is trying to keep Western support unified. Putin is looking for leverage, and European leaders are trying to prevent either front from unraveling further. The bottom line: the Middle East's highest escalation risk is driven by Iran-Israel conflict and Lebanon's spillover. Ukraine's high-intensity attrition continues, with peace efforts stalled and both sides trading strikes. The strategic link is both theaters are competing for US and European attention at the same time, which tends to prolong crises rather than resolve them.